So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges. You referenced the fact that you guys were, you practiced and you didn't know if you were going to play, and then at one point the Big Ten says they're not going to play football. The Pac-12 says they're not going to play football. Everybody's afraid the Southeastern Conference is going to join them, and then thank goodness for the Southeastern Conference, they stepped out on the limb and said, "Hey, we're playing football." The ACC joined them, then the Big 12 joined them, and now obviously the the Big 10 and the Pac-12 came running back with their tails between their legs to play football. So now we've got everybody playing football, but there's still challenges. I mean, my alma mater, Notre Dame, had to cancel a game and move it, So talk about those challenges. How difficult was it, and what are some of the things you guys did to make sure, one, that you were getting the preparation you needed, but two, to make sure that the guys stay motivated? Because I'm sure with as many guys as you got on the team, there's some guys who just thought, "Hey, we're not going to play any football," So talk a little bit about those challenges.
Man, guys, where do I start?
Take your time.
So the biggest thing was this past year we were one game short of going to a bowl game, and we looked back at our record, guys, and we had lost 5 games by 24 points or less. And so our whole mantra this offseason and really going through the season was 24. You've got wristbands that say 24 on them. And that is like, what are we going to do extra as Coastal Carolina football to make up those 24 points, to make sure that we're able to compete and go after those dreams and those goals that we've set for ourselves? So the first thing was that we actually had spring ball in February. Okay. That was before everybody else, which people kind of raised their eyebrow at the time. It's like, it's really early to have spring ball. But then we looked like we knew what we were doing, right? Because COVID happened. Everybody shut it down. We were only one of 2 programs in the entire nation to be able to get all 15 of their spring practices in. So we benefited greatly from that. But that's when the 4-month quarantine started. And from coaches to teachers to everybody else, it was just a huge challenge for us to be able to go about our everyday business when you're not connected with people. We did everything on Zoom. Coaches met via Zoom. We were talking about game plans for our opponents that we were supposed to be playing. We did all of our game preps via Zoom. And after about a month, and we realized, guys, we're not going to be back in office with our guys anytime soon. That's when we started our meetings with the players via Zoom. We did special teams meetings. We installed all of our schemes and formations. Once the NCAA allowed our signees to enter into those, it was a great teaching moment because we've got all of our new guys. Let's go over our installs. Let's go over what we do. So we were able to put that in early, about, June, July, all of that stuff. And then we actually had position meetings, reinstalling the offense, reinstalling the defense. So we had tons of meeting time, and we even had our team meetings. We have this thing called LAF, Life After Football, where we try to teach our guys about life and about what it takes to be a man, that you're not going to football for your entire life, and what are you going to do once that's over with. So we had all of those meetings via Zoom, and you feel like you're doing as much as you can, but still there's that human connection part missing, right? And then of course as coaches working with, we're in a people business, and so it was really, really difficult. But one of the biggest things that we try to teach our kids: adapt, adjust. You cannot control what's going to happen to you in life, but you can control what you're going to do after the fact. Right. And so we've been hit with this. It's just like a game. Something happens, a pick six, you put the ball on the ground, something happens that you're not expecting. What are you going to do after that? So our guys responded really well. They didn't have access to the workout facilities, to our gym, to our locker room. Our guys are doing wind sprints up hills in their neighborhoods. One of our players was deadlifting his couch sofa and sending videos to the strength coach. Just the ingenuity there. And then probably one of my favorite stories was that we've got a couple of guys that live in a big house not too far off from campus, and they literally ordered weights and put them in their driveway. So if you can imagine, it's all of our we've caught some press for this, but all of our guys with the mullets. If you can imagine a bunch of mullet college football players just out on their driveway doing deadlifts and power cleans, and then they would send videos to the coaches and to the strength to say, "Hey, coach, we're getting our work in and stuff." Again, totally different. They don't ever train you for this when you're wanting to be a teacher or a football coach.
Right.
But the guys adapted and they adjusted. Now, when we got back, it still wasn't normal, and it still isn't normal. When we started fall camp was because like fall camp, you are at the facility the whole day.
Right.
You don't, it's like full football. School hasn't started yet. And so we're used to having position meetings. We're used to having unit meetings. How we did it to work, because the biggest thing with COVID is not being in close proximity, social distancing, obviously. So we wanted to make sure that we could meet, but still have social distancing. So we continued to meet via Zoom, but we met underneath the stadium. We had facilities set up these tents for each position group. And so each position group had their specific tent underneath the stadium where everybody could be separated and have social distancing, and everyone wore their masks. And we still did Zoom meetings, but they were at least there at the facility to where the second meetings were done. They could go into the locker room, get changed, and then we could hit the practice field running. We did that for all the fall camp. Again, you would have the guys in your room where they could, draw stuff up on the board. But again, adapt and adjust. What are you given, and what are you going to do after you're given that? So that was the first big hurdle right there. Then you think about stuff like meals over in the cafeteria, and we're, over all together as a team. But the regular students that aren't involved with sports, they're not back yet. So a lot of the cafeterias weren't open yet. So we're having to get food catered in and having to work through that. Just a huge public shout out to our DFO, Brad Queen. He did a wonderful job organizing all of that stuff amid, having masks and making sure we had social distancing through meals, and making sure that we were checking all the boxes to make sure that our players were in a safe environment when they were here to practice and to get ready for the season. Yeah, and then thankfully, once fall camp ended, we began our testing process. We get tested every single week to make sure. We got tested 3 times the week of Kansas. Right. And so just really preaching to our guys that you have to make sacrifices, guys. You have to make sacrifices. When you leave football, you really can't interact with anybody else. Right. You need to go home. You really can't go out anywhere. You can't really hang out with people that you usually don't hang out with. We're not trying to say don't hang out with your friends or don't need that. But you have to make wise decisions during a pandemic if you want to play the football season. Right. And I'm so proud of our guys. I'm so proud of them because they have done everything we've asked them to do. But it's not because we've asked them to. It's because they want to play so badly. Right. And I love coaching this group. They are so hungry to play that they were willing to wear the mask, and they were willing to follow all the protocols, and they're doing everything right. As of right now, Coastal Football has not canceled a football game because of COVID. And the past 2 weeks, actually, we just got our results back from we took yesterday. Coastal Football has 0 positive cases that's our players, our staff, our coaches, anybody that interacts with our team. So we were thrilled to hear that today, since we do have a game this Saturday versus Arkansas State at noon on ESPN2. So we were really hoping that, all right, guys, let's make sure that we continue, because we just had a bye week, was following protocols, making sure that we were wearing our mask and social distancing and washing our hands. And we were very thrilled to hear that news, and we're very excited for the game this Saturday. But those are just, I could continue to go on about all the different things we've had to do for COVID, but that's a big chunk of it right there, though, guys.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because I wanted to ask about some of the travel related changes, because I know you guys just said, or you just said no positive tests so far, which is great. And now not every team can say that. Well, you have seen some different teams that have had some positive tests, and obviously college football is not being played in a bubble, maybe like the NBA or like the MLB playoffs are about to do. So talk about some of the differences in travel, because I know that football travel is very regimented. You've got the itinerary and things like that. But when you're going to Kansas, Texas, Louisiana, all these places, what are some precautions you're taking on the road to make sure that you're still able to continue to have a season?
Right. How much social distancing can you have on an airplane? Right. That's what you're thinking whenever you first think about travel. But the first thing that we were looking at from a travel perspective is how can we make sure that we are following the protocols, that we can ensure as much social distancing as possible, that we can keep our players safe, but at the same time complete the objective of traveling somewhere and play the actual game. So at first, we actually thought we had heard news that we were going to have to wear a mask and then that we were going to wear a face shield whenever we were on the plane and going to somewhere else. Because of all the negative tests that we had, it turns out that we were only having to wear our mask, which we were very thankful for on that one. Planes can get a little bit stuffy from that angle. So we kind of jumped that hurdle right there. One of the big ones that we utilized was rooming, actually, because normally you would put 2 players in a room and so on and so forth. But we really had to be wise about who are we putting together, who has been exposed to it prior, different things of that nature. So when we traveled, we put more guys into single rooms to make sure that they were able to social distance. Maybe people that have tested positive and that have gotten over it, maybe put those players together instead of putting them with the others that haven't tested positive in those cases. And then, of course, doing staggered times. That's a really big thing. I know that we've had meals staggered a lot of times where you would have part of the staff come in and eat here, and then you would have the rest of the guys come in at this point. Again, stuff that we've never done. Those are the challenges that you face. And again, this is not a football thing, but when you're faced with a problem, you've got to prioritize how important is it, which in this case, it's very important. You have to analyze it, and then you've got to come up with a way to solve it and to fix it. And so our staff does a great job of doing that through the staggered meals, through the social distancing, making sure that, whenever we go through our food lines, that everyone's got their mask on, and that, we make sure that we follow all those protocols. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure everybody's safe. Because football is wonderful. We all 3 know this, but people are much more important. And so we try to take care of people right there. So those were some of the things that we've done during travel to make sure that we stay safe amid this pandemic process.